The Supreme Court hears arguments today in a landmark challenge to determine if former President Donald Trump can run for re-election. He's appealing a decision to remove him from Colorado's primary ballot. Jan Crawford is at the Supreme Court. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning. I mean, landmark, you said it. You cannot overstate the importance of this case. I mean, Donald Trump, he's not going to be here. His advisors want no distractions because if he loses this case, his presidential campaign, his political career, it's over. That's the stakes. Now, the Supreme Court has never considered this issue. It involves an obscure part of the Constitution, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It was passed after the Civil War, and it says, I'm going to read it, it says, no person shall hold any office who took an oath as an officer of the United States, but then engaged in insurrection. Now, challenges filed in at least 35 states argue this clause applies to Trump because he engaged in insurrection on January 6th, and so he's disqualified from running for president. The Colorado Supreme Court was the first to agree, followed by Maine Secretary of State. Both said that Trump should be removed from their state's primary ballots and not be able to run for president. Now, if the justices uphold that Colorado decision, that's going to jumpstart efforts in these other states to also take him off the ballot. Trump is saying he didn't engage in insurrection. But beyond that, Section 3 doesn't even mention presidents, so it doesn't apply to them. His opponents say it's common sense. Of course it does. If it applies to all these other office holders, how can it not apply to the highest office in the land? These are really difficult legal questions. There's not a lot of historical evidence on either side, so the justices are really in uncharted waters, and they have got to decide this quickly. Super Tuesday is less than a month away, Anne-Marie.
Right, and as you point out, there are other cases across the country that are sort of waiting to see what the outcome of this decision is. I want to kind of revisit, though, those arguments. That I find it very interesting that both sides are focusing on kind of different words within Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
Right. I mean, Trump is saying, and he's kind of focusing on officer of the U.S. and office. And he's saying there's other parts of the Constitution where the president is not included in that. That's an officer under the United States. That means an appointed official. It doesn't refer to the president. The president isn't an officer under the U.S. The president is the government. It's not that. So, and there's three other parts of the Constitution that kind of bolster that argument. Of course, his opponents are saying, come on. I mean, this is obviously, you think that after the Civil War, when they were so worried about Confederates going back into power, that they were going to say, like, okay, we don't want anybody else to go back into power, but yeah, president, that's fine. Well, you can run for president if you're an insurrectionist. So they're saying, like, obviously, this should apply to presidents as well as all of these other office holders, because you got to think about what the purpose of this Section 3 when it was passed and ratified after the Civil War. Right. There's other arguments. Trump's also saying he's not an insurrectionist. I don't think the court's going to touch that. I mean, that's just, they're not going to make a fact-finding thing based on what the district court judge. I think the most likely scenario is they're going to keep it pretty narrowly focused on the text of the Constitution, and that's where I think Trump's going to prevail.
Interesting. Okay, and then of course, above, sort of hanging over all of this is politics. And I know that the Supreme Court is supposed to be sort of disconnected from all that political pressure. But we know that several of these justices were appointed by Donald Trump. We know that there is sort of an ethics cloud a little bit hanging over the justices. Will they be considering the political implications of this?
I don't think they'll be considering the political implications in terms of benefiting Donald Trump. I mean, just because some of these guys were appointed by Trump and are conservative doesn't mean particularly they necessarily like Donald Trump. And, you've got Democratic appointees up here as well. So, are they going to vote against Trump? I mean, the point is this is a real moment for the court, I think, to show that they are above politics, that they're going to look at the law and the Constitution and make these decisions. I wish, for the sake of the court, which, as you said, has been under an ethics cloud, they could come together and figure out a way to have some unanimous decision. That's going to be very difficult, I think, because there's not a lot to work on here in the case law. And as we've seen in past cases, going back to Bush versus Gore, where the presidency was at stake, it divided the court along ideological lines. So, perhaps that will happen now, but I think it would be unfortunate because this is a moment where the justices can show that they are above politics.
Indeed. Jan Crawford, thank you so much for explaining things so clearly for us. We appreciate it.